I'm just going to talk about best bang for your buck compound movements as you start to look to develop your strength. Right, you notice how there's a little bit of a curve in his torso here, and his chest is actually pointing out and up. What this means is he's starting to activate his glutes, and you may think on a chest exercise, activating your glutes. Well, if your core is activated and your back muscles are activated, your chest actually pointing out. That means your upper body is, the word for it is called braced. But if your upper body is braced and your lower body is just completely chilling, there's going to be like a disconnect right in the middle here, right, at the bottom of your core. And you've got to ask yourself, if these muscles are working, these are the target muscles, could you serve yourself better by having one big connected form of muscle? Or would you be better served having lazy legs and a half activated core? So what happens when people actually activate, basically you tense your glutes, you're in this laying down position, you tense your glutes, and what that does is it extends your hips a little bit. So your hips are like kind of barely touching on the bench. But one tiny pickup point I think I can see, right, is his heels. A lot of you will try this, right, and depending on the height of the bench, you may struggle to get into this like very active bench pressing position. Because your feet will be like kind of only touching the floor a little bit. What I want you to do in that case is just put a couple of plates under your feet so your full foot can stay on the floor. And then basically you're going to extend your glutes, you're going to activate the muscles in your legs, relatively gently. And then you're going to form one active, basically you want all of your little muscles, all of the muscles in your body to be working together. You do not want lazy, disconnected legs, because there's going to be a part of your body where the laziness meets the active, and if that's your core, that's an issue for you. That's going to be an issue for your strength and your performance on that set. Anyway, some more good points. You can just see that he's activating his lats here. He's activating it anyway. And another thing that people typically get wrong, this guy gets right, is notice his elbow position. So 9 out of 10 people that do bench press, their elbows are wide, like their elbows are in line with their shoulders. And this guy is perfect. The angle is perfect. It's 45 degrees. So typically people will have their elbow about this position here. Rarely do people have it close to their torso, but he's got it right in the middle. That is the ideal range. When you're at the bottom of the bench press position, you want to be visualizing pushing somebody over. And every time I see people in the gym that have wide elbows, I stop them what they're doing straight away and I say, look, if you were to push somebody over, would you push them over with your elbows in this position? You wouldn't push them over, but you wouldn't do that. You would push them over from a narrow position because big chest muscles actually produce force. Anyway, I'm going to let him do a couple of reps. I'm going to move on. So he's got good technique. He has clearly got good technique. The only pickup point I can make is I think his heels are off the floor, which means that his lower body brace, see that, heels off the floor. If he had plates under his feet there, it'd be a tiny bit better, but this is a tiny pickup point. Who am I? My name is Paul Green, and I'm an online coach. I'm the founder of the Longevity Program, and that is a laser-focused strength conditioning service focused on improving the strength of the joints, the power, and the speed of men over 40. If you're a woman and you're 36, go away, find a different coach. I'm only focusing on men that are over the age of 40, but in a past life, I was a former paratrooper and a PTI in the parachute regiment. I'll have you know. Also a Special Forces support group operator. Over the past decade, I have physically trained thousands of elite men across defence, including those in the RAF, the Royal Marines and the Parachute Regiment. Also, future officer leaders at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst and recruits that look to join the parachute regiment at the parachute training company. So I've got a lot of experience doing physical training, and you probably think that these elite units are very fit and they can put weight on their back and they can go for miles and miles and miles up and down hills, very fast, very slow, for days on end, and you wouldn't be wrong. However, an endurance focus and a lack of strength training and a lack of fundamentals in strength has led the army over the past 5 or 6 years to start heavily focusing on strength training. So what we've had to do is we have to have a massive overhaul in the way we do things, the way we do our business, in order to reduce the costs injuries were causing in the British Army. Anyway, the longevity program, it's a laser-focused online coaching service for men over 40. The reason it's men over 40 is because type 2B muscle fibers start to decline. Typically, men over 40 make that shift into endurance because they think that they're getting old, and I'm here to remind you that you can be absolutely strong. You can have good range of motion as you get older, right? You can improve your power and you can improve your speed. We're onto a vertical pressing movement now, and he went for a standing, it looks like a strict press. Full range of motion at the shoulders, plenty of elbow flexion, so it works the triceps as well and the elbow joint. Very good exercise. This, for me, right, even in a squat, getting the bar off these J-hooks, I say this to everybody, all of my clients, right, getting the bar off the rack is the most important part of the lift, because this is where the tightness begins. Symmetrical grip, you then get yourself underneath the bar. He's obviously going to get himself underneath the bar because he's doing a shoulder press, but he's starting to build tension in the muscles. And like I said earlier on about having not just having tension in the working muscles, having tension throughout your full body will build that confidence when you lift that bar off the rack. If you're half-arsed, lazy and lousy and relaxed when you lift the bar off, it's going to affect your confidence straight away. The bar's going to slip right down into a terrible position. I'm not going to sit here and say you're going to get injured from doing that. I'm just going to say it puts you in a better frame of mind if you take this seriously, and I call this your pre-lifting ritual. Symmetrical grip, or however you want to set it up, but you start building the tension so then when you're ready to take the weight off the bar, you're in an athletic position and you're ready to take that the first rep is your confidence rep. You don't want to be setting yourself up for a failure because you've not took your pre-lifting ritual seriously. Anyway, that was a little bit more in depth than I would have liked, but this is a vertical press and he's got good technique. Setup position, not ideal. See his rounding his back. This can be solved, if you set up like this can be solved by a simple cue called chest out. Soon as you put your chest out, when you stood up, everybody's happy to put the chest out when they're standing up. When people bend forward, they reach too far. And what the reaching too far does is it sends your shoulder blades a little bit wider and it just causes this little bit of a bend. It's not really a drama as long as you're aware of it, but it's rectified when you say chest out. When you say chest out, he's done another thing that's a common mistake as well. I'm going to show it. I'm going to go back one sec. This is the chest out thing, right? High level powerlifters, right, will sacrifice their upper body in order to, they're going to do this, but anyway, chest out alleviates that issue. That'll straighten your lower back. Not too bad because he's not lifting very heavy, but the one thing I noticed there is look where the bar is and look where his centre of gravity is. His centre of gravity runs straight up here and the bar is about half a foot in front of him. If the bar is half a foot in front of him, the muscles that have to compensate to pull that bar back into a centre of gravity is pure lower back, spinal, right? For a more efficient lift, this bar needs to be as close to his centre of gravity as possible. But watch where he lifts it from. he lifts it from here, meaning it's pure back, pure lower back. And if I've seen this, any of my clients doing this, I'd rectify it straight away, right? What you do is straight away shins to bar. So literally pull the bar into your shins, and then it would be hamstrings and glutes. Here, it's not hamstrings and glutes, it's pure lower back. I'll tell you that for free. So if you're feeling it too much in your lower back when you do a deadlift, make sure that you are shins to bar. And going one level further than that, let's just go back a tiny touch. Don't call it horizontal pulling as well, just call it hinge, right? Hinge. Hinge means hinging at the hips. Anyway, right? Get your shins to the bar at the first point of the setup. Before you even go down, get your shins to the bar. Yeah, chest out at the bottom. And then you breathe in, tense your core, tense every muscle in your body. And then you come up. Happy with that? Right, anyway. This is saying that's great for total body muscle mass. Deadlift is actually a terrible exercise for building your muscle mass. There's a lot better exercises out there that shorten and lengthen these muscle fibers. Deadlifts doesn't shorten and lengthen all of these muscle fibers. It keeps them all at the same length. Good strength exercise, terrible muscle building exercise. If I don't say much, he's probably got good technique. Lower body push, right? Or a squat. But the reason that the terminology is like this is because it gives you the freedom. You don't have to do a bench press. You can do a dumbbell press. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be strictly a bench press, because all it is you pushing your arms away from your body horizontally. Vertically is the standing press one. Anyway, squat. I'm not going to sit here and rinse the way he squats. I talked about squatting on the last one. It's not a bad squat. You know what I mean? It's pretty good. 90 degrees is fine. However, I'm a massive fan. Anybody, any ages, if they can only squat that low down, right? I am getting something underneath their heels, and I'm getting them to go down so their hamstring touches their calf. The reason being is it strengthens the surrounding muscles of the knee, and it will start to strengthen your knee joint. Strong knees, very common injury. Strong knees are going to massively help with all sorts of issues typically men run into in the second half of their life. But not really a bad squat. If I've seen someone squatting like this, I would consider it safe. However, for my men on the longevity program, I would be advising them to go further down. If they didn't have the range of motion to do that, I would then implement something underneath the heel to see if they could go all the way down. If they still couldn't go all the way down, I would change the exercise completely into a split squat, for example, in which they can get hamstring to calf. I want to strengthen the knees, fully strengthen the knees. And this doesn't fully strengthen the knees, that's the point I'm making. If you only go down to about 90 degrees, you strengthen, let's say, 70% of the quad. Unfortunately, the 30% that's left over is right on the bottom. Do you know what I mean? That's why I'm very passionate about getting lower into these ranges and taking the hit on the ego with that. But safe exercise, safe squat. The deadlift that he just did, by the way, that wasn't safe. Leg press, great exercise, very loadable. You know, this person seems to be a different person doing a squat. He's going a little bit lower than 90, parallel here. I wouldn't mind seeing this guy squat. Never mind. Lower body pulling again, he's talking about deadlifts. Again, even though he's already mentioned deadlifts. This guy's a bit better with deadlifts, he must have got coached on. Unless this is a summary. So it's a little bit, the bar's a little bit closer to his shins here. Centre of gravity way better. His chest is now out. Maybe he was shown like a little bit of a poor technique. Bit of a better brace. Looks like he's breathing well as well. Yeah, his chest's out at the bottom. He could be out a tiny bit more. He looks like he's taking it seriously there. I don't really know what's going on here. Lower body pulling from your little action man. I love it. Like, look at the aggression at the bottom of the rep, right? I know he's dressed like a lunatic, right? But one thing that I really like about this is he's in like a squat position at the bottom and very narrow stance. But one thing I like to see, right, is I like to see tightness. What's the hardest part of a deadlift? The hardest part of the deadlift is at the bottom of a deadlift. So basically, you need to be as tight as possible. I'm not just saying your lower back just needs to be there, just your core. You know, activate your quads, your hamstrings, your glutes, your arms, your biceps, your triceps, your shoulders, your chest, your face, your neck. All of this needs to be working together as one team, because if there is one lazy muscle here somewhere, it's just gonna crumble the system. Do you know what I mean? Especially when you start stacking the weight on and you start hitting your strength rep ranges or your power rep ranges. You need to be all working together as one, and that's called bracing. I'll probably do a video on bracing. But yeah, one thing I like is that it would appear, even though he's all face and he's just lunatic and he's not lifting very much weight, it would appear that he is in a very tight position at the hardest part of the rep. In any exercise whatsoever that you do, all of your body wants to be working together as one when the exercise is at its hardest. But that links in with breathing, effective breathing and stuff like that. Men, that concludes the video. If you made it to the end, thank you very much for sticking around. Hopefully you found it useful. If I missed anything, put it in the comments below so that we together can ensure men age gracefully.